Hello everyone. Life is a journey filled with moments of joy and sorrow, of trust and betrayal. Often we find ourselves wounded by the actions of others, and it can feel as if the pain is intentional. This speech reflects on the harsh reality that sometimes people cause harm deliberately, whether it be through their words, their actions, or their silence. It encourages reflection on the purpose of these actions, the consequences they bring, and how we can rise above them with strength and wisdom. People may hurt you on purpose, but this doesn't define who you are. It's a painful reality that we all face at some point in our lives. We experience betrayal, disappointment, and malice, often from those who should have been the most supportive or loving. The deliberate actions of others can wound us deeply, making us question our own worth, our place in the world, and the sincerity of our relationships. In these moments of hurt, it's easy to get lost in the pain, to focus solely on the cruelty of others, and to allow their behavior to shape our identity. But it's important to remember that while they may have chosen to hurt you, that decision does not have the power to define you. Their actions are a reflection of them, not you. When someone intentionally hurts you, it's easy to internalize that hurt. We tend to believe that their actions are a reflection of who we are, that the words they say or the decisions they make somehow highlight our shortcomings or weaknesses. We might even begin to question our value, wondering if there is something wrong with us. After all, if someone we care about deliberately causes us pain, doesn't it mean that we are unworthy of their kindness or love? But that is a misconception we must challenge. The truth is, when others choose to hurt you, it speaks volumes about their inability to handle their own issues, insecurities, and personal struggles. The pain they inflict is often not truly about you at all, but about their own emotional turmoil, their frustration, their own sense of helplessness or fear. People who intentionally hurt others are often projecting their own unresolved pain onto those around them. They may not even be aware of the damage they are causing, or perhaps they believe that causing harm to others will somehow relieve them of their own suffering. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it shifts the perspective. When someone chooses to hurt you, it's a reflection of their lack of control over their own emotions or the unhealthy coping mechanisms they rely on to manage their discomfort. People who hurt others intentionally often do so because they feel powerless in their own lives. It's easier to lash out than to confront the deeper issues within themselves. The hurt they cause is a misguided attempt to regain control, but it is, in the end, an expression of their own inner chaos. Understanding this can be empowering. When you recognize that their actions are rooted in their own unresolved struggles, it becomes easier to separate yourself from their pain. You no longer have to shoulder the blame or take their cruelty personally. You are not the cause of their hurtful behavior, and you are not responsible for their inability to heal. You have your own journey, your own path to walk, and their actions cannot define the course of your life unless you allow them to. It is important to remember that you are not what others make of you. Your worth is not determined by the actions of those who choose to bring you pain. People may hurt you, but they cannot take away your dignity or your sense of self. Their intentions are not a reflection of your value or your potential. They do not have the power to determine your identity or to dictate how you view yourself. You are not defined by their cruelty, and you should not let their actions color the way you see yourself. Your worth is intrinsic. It is not tied to how others treat you or the hurt they bring into your life. Your worth comes from within, from the person you know yourself to be, from your values, your strength, and your ability to rise above adversity. No matter how hard someone tries to wound you, they can never take away your sense of self unless you allow them to. You are more than the sum of their hurtful words or actions. In moments of intentional harm, it's vital to remind yourself that their choices are not yours. You do not need to carry their emotional baggage or make their pain your own. You can choose to release their actions, to move forward, and to heal. Their intentions may have been to hurt you, but that does not mean you must remain hurt. You have the power to choose healing, to move beyond the damage they caused and to rise above their negativity. So, while others may hurt you on purpose, remember that it does not define you. Their actions do not hold power over who you are. You are the one who defines your own worth. You are the one who chooses how to respond to the pain they cause. You are the one who decides whether or not you will let their cruelty shape your future. The pain they cause reflects more about their own struggles and insecurities than it does about you. When someone intentionally hurts you, it is easy to become consumed with the idea that it must somehow be about you, that you are the one to blame for their actions. But this is a misunderstanding of both their behavior and your own worth. In reality, their actions say far more about them than they do about you. The harm they bring to your life is often a reflection of their own inner turmoil, unresolved issues, and unmet needs. People who lash out or intentionally hurt others often do so because they are struggling with something deep within themselves. They may be dealing with feelings of inadequacy, frustration, or fear, and the only way they know how to cope with those feelings is by projecting them onto others. In many cases, the person causing the hurt may not even be fully aware of the extent of their own pain or the way they are projecting it outward. Their inability to deal with their own emotions can result in harmful actions toward those they interact with. When someone chooses to hurt you, they are not necessarily seeing you for who you are, but rather projecting their own fears, insecurities, and unresolved conflicts onto you. This pattern often comes from a place of deep insecurity. People who hurt others may feel powerless in their own lives or disconnected from their sense of purpose. In these moments of weakness, it can seem easier to lash out at someone else rather than face their own inner struggles. The act of causing harm can be an attempt to regain control, even if it's only temporary. They may feel that by hurting someone else, they can momentarily alleviate their own sense of vulnerability, but this relief is fleeting. In reality, the harm they inflict only deepens their own pain as they continue to avoid confronting the root cause of their suffering. What is often at play is a vicious cycle. The person who hurts others is doing so because they are in pain, but rather than facing that pain or seeking healing, they deflect it by turning it outward. This deflection creates a ripple effect as the people they hurt carry the weight of their actions, and the cycle of suffering continues. The person who is hurt may begin to internalize the negativity, assuming it must be their fault or that they somehow deserve the pain, but this is far from the truth. The one causing the harm is not acting out of malice toward you specifically. They are merely lashing out because they do not know how to handle their own emotional burden. The hurtful actions you endure are not an accurate reflection of your value or your character. Instead, they speak to the other person's inability to confront their own struggles. When someone intentionally hurts you, it is not because you are flawed or undeserving. Their insecurities, fears, and unresolved pain have led them to a place where they can no longer see beyond their own perspective, and they project their unresolved issues onto others as a result. This understanding doesn't excuse their actions, but it does provide clarity. When you realize that the pain they cause is more about their internal battles than your own shortcomings, it becomes easier to detach from their cruelty. It's no longer about you, it's about them. They are struggling with something far greater than you, and unfortunately, their pain manifests in the form of harming those they come into contact with. But that does not mean you should carry the burden of their suffering. By recognizing that their hurtful behavior is not personal, you can begin to release the hold it has over you. You can stop allowing their actions to dictate your emotions, your sense of self, or your future. When you accept that their pain is theirs to bear, you free yourself from the weight of their behavior. You can move forward without carrying the unnecessary burden of their unresolved issues. So you no longer have to take their pain upon yourself. because their struggles are not your responsibility. In many ways, understanding that the harm they cause reflects more about them than it does about you is a powerful form of liberation. You no longer need to internalize their negativity or take their actions personally. You can let go of the idea that their words or behavior somehow define your worth. Instead, you can focus on healing from their actions, not by changing them, but by choosing to rise above their hurtful behavior. Their insecurities may never be something you can solve, but your ability to heal and move forward is entirely within your control. Ultimately, their pain is not yours to carry. You are not the source of their suffering, and you are not defined by their cruelty. The pain they cause may be real, but it does not shape your identity. You are more than their projections, more than their hurtful actions. And once you realize this, you can begin to reclaim your peace. You have the power to choose how to respond to their actions. Strength, forgiveness, and resilience are your choices. When you face intentional harm, it can feel as if you have no control, that the pain inflicted on you is out of your hands. The immediate reaction is often to lash out, to strike back, to let the anger and hurt consume you. After all, when someone hurts you intentionally, doesn't it feel justified to retaliate? However, what many fail to realize is that the greatest power we have in such moments is not in the reaction, but in the choice of how we respond. No matter how painful the situation, the way we respond can define not only the outcome of the situation, but also our own emotional and mental well-being. Choosing strength in the face of intentional harm is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending the pain doesn't exist. Strength is not about denying the hurt, but about acknowledging it and choosing to rise above it. It is the recognition that your response is not dictated by their actions, but by your own sense of self and your values. You may not be able to control what others do, but you always have control over how you allow it to affect you. Strength in response to intentional harm is the decision to stand firm, to not let the actions of others erode your sense of self-worth. It is the realization that no matter how deeply they wound you, you will not be defeated by their cruelty. The strength lies not in avoiding hurt, but in how you rise from it, how you move forward with resilience, and how you refuse to allow their actions to diminish. Forgiveness, often regarded as a sign of weakness, is actually one of the most powerful responses to intentional harm. Forgiveness is not about excusing or condoning the harm they've caused. It is not about absolving them of responsibility for their actions. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the grip of bitterness and anger. When you forgive, you are not letting them off the hook. You are releasing yourself from the prison of hatred and resentment that their actions may have placed you in. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, not to them. It allows you to heal and move forward while choosing not to carry the weight of their cruelty with you. Holding on to anger and resentment is like carrying a heavy burden that only weighs you down, while forgiveness lightens the load and frees you to move forward with peace. Resilience, perhaps the most essential trait in moments of intentional harm, is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to endure hardship, and keep moving forward. Resilience is not about being unaffected by hurt, but about how you respond to it in the long run. When someone hurts you on purpose, resilience is the choice to heal and grow stronger from the experience rather than allowing it to break you. Resilience is the ability to transform pain into growth, to take what could have been a moment of distraction and turn it into a stepping stone toward personal development. It is the capacity to see beyond the immediate hurt, to focus not just on the pain of the present, but on the potential for a better, stronger future. In these moments, resilience calls for courage, not the absence of fear, but the strength to continue moving forward despite it. It requires a deep well of inner strength, a belief that no matter how severe the hurt, you will find a way to heal. Resilience is built over time, through small acts of self-care, through choosing to rise every time you fall, and through recognizing that every hardship is an opportunity for growth. It's understanding that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can control how you respond. And that response will determine the quality of your life moving forward. Choosing how to respond to intentional harm is a powerful act of self-determination. It's a decision to not let the cruelty of others dictate the direction of your life. Every situation of hurt presents a choice: to remain stuck in bitterness and anger, or to rise with strength, forgiveness, and resilience. These are choices you make every day. And the more you practice these responses, the more they become ingrained in your character, and the more they shape your ability to move forward with grace and courage. In moments of intentional harm, you can choose to let the pain break you, or you can choose to let it build you. The power is within you, and it's up to you how you wield it. Recognize that their cruelty is just their version of events, not an objective truth. When someone intentionally hurts you, it's easy to assume that their perspective is the only valid one, that their actions are a reflection of reality. After all, they've inflicted pain, and surely that must be justified in some way. But the truth is far more complex. Their cruelty is not a universal truth. It is simply their perception of the world, influenced by their own experiences, emotions, and biases. It is shaped by their fears, insecurities, and unresolved struggles, which may have nothing to do with you at all. Their behavior reflects their understanding of the world, and that understanding is often deeply flawed. It is important to remember that their version of events is not necessarily an accurate reflection of the reality you know. When someone chooses to hurt you, they do so based on their own interpretation of a situation. Their actions are colored by their emotions, fears, and personal history, which shape the way they perceive the world and the people around them. They may project their own insecurities onto you, or they may act out of frustration, anger, or fear. But this does not make their actions right. Nor does it mean that their perspective is the truth. It is simply how they see things in that moment, influenced by their own inner turmoil and personal biases. Understanding this distinction can help you detach from their behavior and avoid internalizing their cruelty as an accurate portrayal of who you are or what has happened. The human tendency is to believe in the truth of what we experience, and when someone hurts us, it's easy to think that their actions must be based on something valid. We often believe that if they hurt us, there must be something about us that deserves it, that their cruelty must be justified in some way. But this is a dangerous trap to fall into. The reality is that their actions are often a result of their inability to cope with their own emotions or circumstances. It's not about you, it's about their inability to process their feelings in a healthy way. They may lash out because they are dealing with their own insecurities or unresolved pain, and in that moment you may become the target of their internal conflict. But that does not mean you deserve the hurt they've caused. It means that their perception of the situation is clouded by their own struggles, and they are projecting that onto you. By recognizing that their cruelty is merely their interpretation of events, you can begin to distance yourself from the harm they've caused. You no longer have to internalize their behavior as a reflection of your own worth or value. You can acknowledge that their actions are rooted in their own issues. And while those issues may have led them to hurt you, they are not a true reflection of your character. I knew a girl who was very internally rubber, and throughout life she'd struggle with emotions. She was not a victim, and yet she found she had to hurt. Their version of events may be shaped by their own fears, insecurities, and emotional turmoil, but that does not make it a reflection of reality. You can choose to see things from your own perspective, understanding that you are not the cause of their actions and that their behavior does not define who you are. This recognition also allows you to let go of the need for validation from those who hurt you. When someone intentionally causes you pain, it's natural to seek validation or understanding from them. We want them to acknowledge the hurt they've caused, to admit that their actions were wrong, and to apologize for the pain they inflicted. But this is often a fruitless pursuit. People who hurt others intentionally may never fully understand the impact of their actions, or they may refuse to acknowledge it due to their own emotional defensiveness. When you recognize that their cruelty is a reflection of their own issues, it becomes easier to let go of the need for them to validate your feelings or apologize. You no longer need their acknowledgement to know that you are worthy of respect, kindness, and understanding. In this way, you reclaim your power, you stop waiting for them to validate your experience, and you start validating yourself. You no longer rely on their version of events to define your reality. Instead, you choose to see things from your own perspective, understanding that you are not at fault for their actions. You have the ability to heal and move forward without needing them to confirm your pain. Sandre, pankajete. The truth of your experience is valid, even if they never acknowledge it. Their cruelty may have been intentional, but that does not mean it has the power to dictate your sense of self or your understanding of the situation. You are the one who gets to decide how you perceive your own worth, and no one else's perspective can change that unless you allow it. Recognizing that their cruelty is just their version of events helps you regain your emotional freedom. You stop letting their behavior control your emotional state, and you take back the power to shape your own narrative. You no longer let their actions dictate how you see yourself or how you respond to the world. Their perspective is not the ultimate truth, it is just one lens through which they view the world. Your truth, your reality, is yours to define, and no one, not even those who hurt you intentionally, can take that away from you. The wounds they inflict may be deep, but they are not permanent unless you allow them to be. When someone intentionally causes you harm, the pain can feel overwhelming, and the scars can linger for a long time. It's natural to want to hold on to that hurt, to let it define your future actions and perceptions of yourself. You may find yourself ruminating on the ways they've wronged you, replaying their words or actions in your mind, feeling as though the pain will never fade. But the truth is that while the hurt they cause can feel intense and long-lasting, it is not permanent unless you allow it to be. How long you carry that pain and how it affects you moving forward is entirely within your control. The key to overcoming the wounds they inflict lies in your ability to let go of the emotional weight they leave behind. The more you hold onto the hurt, the more it defines your present and future. It becomes an anchor, weighing you down and preventing you from moving forward. It's a choice to keep revisiting the past pain, allowing it to shape your responses and limit your potential. But healing is a conscious decision to release that hold, to let the wounds become part of your story without allowing them to control your narrative. It's important to recognize that the pain may never entirely disappear. Even as you heal, the scars may remain, reminders of the hurt you've endured. But just because something leaves a mark doesn't mean it has to dictate your life. Scars can be a testament to your strength, resilience, and growth. They are the evidence that you faced something difficult, something painful, and yet you rose above it. You don't have to let the wounds become a constant source of suffering. You can choose how to interpret those scars, not as permanent reminders of their cruelty, but as symbols of your ability to endure, to overcome, and to move forward. There is a natural tendency to internalize pain, to believe that the wounds are a reflection of your worth or your inability to avoid the harm caused by others. You might start to think that the scars they leave are your fault, that you somehow allowed them to hurt you. This belief can prevent you from healing, as it perpetuates the idea that the harm you experienced is tied to your own inadequacy, but this is simply not true. The wounds they inflict are a reflection of their choices, not your own. The way you respond to those wounds, however, is where your power lies. You can choose to carry the pain forever, or you can decide that it no longer holds the same power over you. Healing begins when you accept that the pain is real, but it does not define you. The emotional wounds caused by intentional harm can feel isolating and overwhelming, but the longer you allow them to dominate your life, the more control they have over you. The pain may have been inflicted by someone else, but how you handle it is up to you. You can choose to release it, to learn from it, and to use it as fuel for personal growth. Dami, you do not have to stay in the place of pain. You have the ability to move beyond it, to transform the hurt into something that empowers you. Letting go of pain doesn't mean forgetting what happened or excusing the behavior of those who hurt you. It means refusing to allow their actions to determine the course of your life. It means accepting that while you cannot change the past, you can change how you respond to it. The past will always be a part of your story, but it does not have to be the driving force behind your future. You can choose to build a future that is not defined by the wounds of the past. In fact, the more you cling to the pain, the more you allow it to control your actions and your emotional state. By continuing to hold on to the wounds, you are, in essence, giving the person who hurt you power over your life, long after the incident has passed. They no longer need to be physically present to affect you. They can continue to control your emotions and your behavior through the pain they caused. This is why it is so important to release that control. You are the only one who has the ability to reclaim your peace, to take back the power that was once taken from you. Healing is not an overnight process. It takes time, and there will be moments when the pain resurfaces, when the wounds seem fresh again. But with each day, you have the opportunity to choose healing, to let go of the hold that pain has over you. The wounds may never fully disappear, but they can fade in intensity. Over time, the emotional scars can be softened, and what once seemed like an insurmountable source of pain can become just another part of your journey. The power to move on lies within you. The wounds they inflict may be deep, but they do not have to be permanent. You can choose to heal, to release the hurt, and to live a life that is not dictated by the actions of those who sought to harm you. The pain may always be there in some form, but it no longer has to define your life. The choice to heal, to rise above the hurt, and to move forward is yours. And it is the most powerful choice you can make. In the end, you are the one who decides what you will allow into your life and what you will reject. When someone intentionally hurts you, it's easy to feel as though you have no control over the situation, as though their actions have the power to shape your life, your emotions, and your future. It can feel like you're at the mercy of their cruelty, and you may even begin to believe that their behavior dictates how you should respond, how you should feel, or who you should be. However, the truth is that you have far more control over your life and emotions than you may initially realize. You are the one who decides what you will allow into your life, what you will accept, what you will tolerate, and what you will reject. Your power lies in your ability to set boundaries, protect your peace, and refuse to allow negativity and harm to take root within you. The first step in taking back control is to recognize that you have the power to choose what you allow in your life. It's not about pretending the hurt didn't happen or denying the impact of someone's actions. It's about acknowledging that you have the ability to decide how much power you give their behavior over you. You don't have to internalize their cruelty, and you don't have to let their actions define who you are. I'd say what they did may have been hurtful, but that doesn't mean you need to carry it with you forever. You get to decide how you process that pain, how you allow it to affect you, and whether or not you let it shape your identity. Too often we feel that we must accept whatever comes our way, whether it's harm, negativity, or mistreatment. We think that in order to be good people, we must endure whatever is thrown at us, even if it causes us harm. This mindset leads us to overlook the fact that we have the power to set boundaries, to say no, and to protect ourselves from further emotional harm. By choosing to allow others to hurt us, we are, in essence, giving them permission to continue their behavior. This is a choice we don't have to make. You can decide to remove yourself from toxic situations, to stop engaging with people who intentionally hurt you, and to protect your mental and emotional health. You don't owe anyone your pain or your peace. Setting boundaries is not about being defensive or closed off, it's about protecting your well-being. When you refuse to allow others to mistreat you, you are taking control of your own life and emotions. You are deciding that you deserve respect, kindness, and understanding, and you are refusing to tolerate anything less. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, and it allows you to move forward with confidence, knowing that you will no longer accept behavior that diminishes you. It's important to understand that setting boundaries is not always easy. It can be difficult to walk away from relationships or situations that have caused you harm, especially if they are people you care about, or if there is a history that you don't want to sever. But the truth is, you can't heal if you continue to expose yourself to the same harm. It's like trying to recover from a wound while repeatedly reopening it. Oh, to heal, you need space, time, and the ability to protect yourself from further injury. Setting boundaries is about creating that space. It's about saying, I deserve better, and I am worthy of peace. This is not a selfish or an unfair thing to do. In fact, it is one of the most self-loving acts you can take. When you set boundaries, you are giving yourself permission to prioritize your own well-being. You are acknowledging that you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and you are no longer willing to accept less than that. You have the right to reject harm, and you have the power to choose who and what you allow into your life. It's also crucial to understand that you don't have to carry the burden of guilt when you set boundaries. People may try to make you feel as though you're being unreasonable or that you're overreacting, but in reality, you're simply taking care of yourself. You are not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries, nor are you responsible for their behavior. If they react with anger, resentment, or guilt, that is a reflection of their inability to respect your boundaries, not your fault. Your peace, your mental health, and your emotional well-being are worth protecting. You have the power to decide what you will accept and what you will reject. By refusing to tolerate mistreatment, by setting boundaries, and by protecting yourself from harm, you are asserting your right to live a life of dignity, respect, and peace. Don't let anyone take that from you. You are the one who decides what you will allow in your life, and that decision is the key to maintaining control over your own future and happiness. Ultimately, their actions are a reflection of them, not of you. It is easy to fall into the trap of self-blame when someone intentionally hurts you. When we are on the receiving end of cruelty, we often ask ourselves, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? The hurt inflicted upon us can make us question our worth, our actions, and even our value as individuals. But the truth, though difficult to grasp in the heat of the moment, is that the harm others cause us is not a reflection of our character or actions. It is a reflection of their own inner turmoil, their choices, and their perceptions. When someone chooses to hurt you, they are operating from their own limited understanding, shaped by their experiences, insecurities, and fears. Their actions may stem from their own unresolved issues, but these issues have nothing to do with you. Their cruelty is a product of their inability to cope with their emotions in a healthy way, not a commentary on your behavior or your worth. What they say or do to you is simply a reflection of where they are emotionally and mentally, not a reflection of who you are as a person. This is a crucial distinction to make. Their actions are not about you. They are about them. It may seem counterintuitive because we often internalize hurt, thinking that if someone harms us, it must be because we did something wrong or deserve it in some way. We may look for explanations in our behavior, actions, or words, trying to figure out what went wrong. But the reality is that the hurt they cause is not a result of your actions. It's a result of their own state of mind. They may lash out due to their own frustrations, fears, or insecurities. Their behavior is not about you, and it is not your responsibility to understand or justify it. What matters is how you handle it and how you choose to respond. Recognizing that their actions are a reflection of them and not of you helps to shift the focus away from self-blame. It takes the burden off your shoulders and places it where it rightfully belongs, on the person who chose to hurt you. This shift in perspective is essential for healing, as it allows you to stop questioning yourself and start focusing on your own healing and growth. Their cruelty does not define you, nor does it dictate your value as a person. It is simply a reflection of their inability to deal with their own emotions in a constructive way. It is important to understand that when someone hurts you, it is not a judgment of your character. You're not being punished for something you did or failed to do. In fact, often those who inflict harm are projecting their own pain onto others. They may have their own unresolved issues, wounds, and fears, and instead of addressing those issues in a healthy way, they take them out on others. Their behavior is a coping mechanism, a way of dealing with their own struggles, but it is not an indication that you are at fault. This realization also allows you to let go of the need for their approval or acknowledgement. When we are hurt by others, we often seek validation, wondering if they will recognize the pain they've caused and apologize for it. We may want them to acknowledge our hurt and make things right, but sometimes this acknowledgement may never come. They may never apologize or understand the depth of the pain they've inflicted. And while that can be painful, it's important to realize that their lack of acknowledgement is not a reflection of your worth or your feelings. It's a reflection of their own inability to empathize or take responsibility for their actions. When you accept that their actions are a reflection of their own inner struggles, you release the need for them to validate your experience. You no longer need their acknowledgement to know that you are worthy of respect and kindness. You don't need their apology to recognize that you deserve peace and healing. Their behavior is not a commentary on your worth. It is simply a reflection of their own issues. And that understanding allows you to stop seeking validation from them. The power in recognizing that their actions are about them and not about you is that it frees you from the grip of their cruelty. You are no longer carrying the burden of their behavior, and you are no longer questioning your own worth in light of their actions. You can release the emotional hold they have over you and focus on your own healing and well-being. You can accept that their behavior is not a reflection of who you are, and that in itself is a powerful step toward reclaiming your peace. Their actions are a product of their own emotional state and struggles. They may have hurt you, but that hurt is not a reflection of your worth or character. It is a reflection of their inability to cope with their own emotions, and understanding this distinction allows you to heal and move forward. You are not defined by the pain others cause you. You are defined by how you choose to rise above it, by how you choose to protect your peace, and by how you choose to move forward with strength, resilience, and self-compassion. In conclusion, the hurt caused by others, especially when intentional, is undeniably painful, but it does not define you. Recognizing that their actions are a reflection of their own struggles, perceptions, and insecurities can help you detach from the pain and stop internalizing it as a measure of your worth. You have the power to decide how long you carry that pain and whether you allow it to control your life. Healing is a choice, one that empowers you to move beyond the hurt and reclaim your peace. You are the one who sets the boundaries in your life, and you are the one who decides what to accept and what to reject. The wounds may be deep, but they are not permanent, unless you allow them to be. The hurt inflicted upon you does not determine who you are or your future. It is simply a chapter in your story, and you have the ability to turn the page and create a narrative of strength, resilience, and growth. Your worth is not tied to the cruelty of others, but to how you choose to rise above it and heal. In the end, their actions are about them, not about you. It's time to take back control, protect your peace, and live a life free from the influence of those who seek to hurt you.